My name is Gentry Darkins, and today I wish to share with you guys the methods that I've used to hack my brain and become more optimized, more efficient, and yes, even limitless. Now before I get into this video, I want to give a disclaimer. All the information that I'm about to say is sourced directly from myself. These are from things that I've picked up over the years that I've observed people doing, I've observed myself doing, and things that kind of fell together in my brain as I was theory crafting these things about a year and a half ago. And now that I got the theories complete, I figured it was the best to share with everybody. That being said, let's get into the video. So, when hacking our brains, where should we start? I feel the two most important points to focus on is controlling our obsessions and abusing our habits. Now, I want to start off by saying I feel obsession is a great thing. While it has a negative connotation because people see people who are obsessed with something as they can't focus on anything else and it's occupying all their brain power. And yes, while this form of obsession can be bad, but when we use obsession while we're in the focus on one thing, just for the moment of working on it, it's amazing because it provides us with a huge amount of dedication and motivation to a given task. And this is essential when we try to change our habits, which we talked about later in the video. So, when weaponizing our obsession, it's important to know what causes us to become obsessed with something. And the easy answer to that is dopamine. Dopamine is what drives us to a lot of things, actually. Like playing video games or masturbating. We get this happy release in our brain that makes us feel good from it. And that's essentially what dopamine is. So that being said, how can we use this to our advantage? Well, if you combine dopamine in any given task, you can become obsessed with that task. And once you're obsessed with something, because of that dedication and motivation, you can excel at it over a short period of time. Activating the flow state, as talked about in the video, which I will have linked in the description, will be so much easier once you become obsessed with something. You'll be able to flow through it, you'll be attached to the subject, and you will have so much dedication to it. Working on it won't be a chore. You won't have the thoughts in your brain like, oh, I don't want to do this, oh, this is bad. You'll instead be focusing on any and every way to improve at it, which is what's essential. So, that being said, how can we use this to become obsessed with things that we don't like? So, after pondering this question for a while, I figured it out. We don't have anything in our DNA that naturally causes us to dislike certain things, such as studying or doing chores. The reason we dislike these things is because we cross-associate them with easy dopamine releases, such as playing video games. So the first thing I want you to do is immediately stop doing that. You shouldn't associate studying with video games, because when you do this, studying will always get the negative connotation of being a dopamine blocker, and thus finding the easy dopamine releases in studying will be exceptionally difficult. Now, I know what I just said sounds kind of crazy, like dopamine from studying, how can I possibly enjoy it? Well, let me lay it out for you. This is how I figured it out. I began paralleling studying to playing games. So in my brain, I would think, when I'm in the lab playing Smash Brothers and I'm practicing tech skill, practicing movement, and trying to come up with new combos, it's really boring. It's not really fun for me. I don't enjoy it too much. It's just kind of a dull way to pass time. And I feel the same when I'm studying, like reading a book or going through this series for math. It's not really enjoyable for me. So both those things kind of match up. And then when I'm in the game in Smash and I'm landing an awesome combo and destroying my opponent, I feel great. And the same thing happens when I'm studying and I'm going through my practice problems and I'm working through them and I'm getting stuff right. Every time I get a question right, I feel amazing from it. It's a dopamine release. But because we view studying so negatively, we may not see this release or feel the full impact of it. Once you know that it's there and you can focus on it, you'll feel so great and you want to seek it out more. And thus you'll become obsessed with studying and be able to flow through it better. I can take it even a step farther. Let's say I'm playing a game and I'm in a tournament and I'm about to win it. When I hear the crowd on my side and I win the tournament and I get that final kill, I just feel so great. And let's say you're in class and the teacher asks a really hard question and nobody else in the class knows how to answer it, but you do because you've been studying. When you answer it, you feel amazing. You pop off. You have so much energy in your body. You feel so smart. You hear people in the class, oh, he's smart. That's what we want. But now that we know how to control our obsessions, I feel the next thing we need to learn how to control is our habits. So, naturally, humans are habitual creatures. It takes around 2 weeks to have the brain adjust to a new habit being implemented, but it won't become a habit yet. It'll just be something that's easier to do. But then after a full month has passed, so approximately 31 days, the habit will be locked in and we'll do it naturally without even thinking about it. So, I know as you see the next bullet point is that you can't trust yourself. And why is that? Well, when trying to implement a new habit, you really can't trust yourself to do it naturally. That's why people who make New Year's resolutions of, oh, I'm going to go to the gym every day, they'll be there for like the first week, and then you go to the gym 1 week later, and it's back the way it was before the New Year's happened. And this is because people can't make it through that 2-week pain period. Now, there are ways that you can make it through this. And the two ways I like to talk about the most are the way of accountability and using alarms. So accountability is essentially telling somebody that you're going to have something done by a period of time, or telling somebody that you're going to do something. And this can't just be a random person. It has to be something that you're in constant contact with. So you have that added pressure on your shoulders to work through it and get it done, because we seek acceptance from others. And that's why whenever you do something great or accomplish an amazing task, the first thing you think is, I got to tell somebody. And you can use that to your advantage to give you extra motivation and dedication to do something. And our goal is not to have endless motivation from this. It's just to have enough to make it through that 2-week period of struggle to where everything will become so much easier when forming our habits. And the next thing is alarms. And I'm talking about just setting 1 or 2 alarms. I mean setting like 5, 6, 7 alarms. You need a ton of alarms for like one given task, because the more you hear that alarm go off, you can't just hit snooze and ignore it anymore. You have to keep going through it, keep going back to your phone. And at some point, you get fed up and you just do it, so you don't have to worry about it anymore. You can go ahead and deactivate them without feeling stressed in your brain from not doing something. So this is also a very useful way, and it's useful to use alarms to better manage your time so you can flow from task to task. The last thing I want to talk about with our habits is how we can essentially change the way we react to our impulse of a habit to make it a good one. So you can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. You can eliminate a bad habit and create a good habit. And the way we do this is, for example, I'll talk about this later in the video, but I use this to get better confidence. But for the sake of example right now, let's say you have a habit of biting your nails. Before you actually bite your nail, you get a release in your brain that tells you to do it. But if you change the way you react to this release, you can make that habit something good. So for example, I changed mine to chewing gum. Like let's say every time I want to bite my nail, I'll instead go in my pocket, pull out a pack of gum, and start chewing it. It's easier to do. It's not bad for my body, not bad for my teeth, and it just makes me feel better about myself that I'm not biting my nails. That's generally a bad, disgusting habit. And of course, throughout the 2-week period, it was relatively difficult to do. But by telling people, okay, Mom, I'm not going to bite my nails anymore, having that on my mind, that added pressure, it makes it a lot easier to go through. So the next thing I want to talk about is molding your mind. When you have your mind molded in a way to be more optimized and efficient, it'll make accomplishing, controlling your obsessions, and creating habits so much easier. So the first thing I want to talk about is mental role reversal. So when we're out in public, we tend to wear a mask. We're not really exactly ourselves. We're more of a shadow of who we are because we try to impress other people. And while this may get you generally liked by people, that's not always a good thing, because you'll struggle to find somebody you actually connect with on a deeper level. So instead, I feel it's better to just be 100% yourself and be polarizing. If you love anime, go tell people you like anime. If you are into some like crazy shit, you may not want to put it all out there at once, but do not be afraid to be who you are and put it out there. And of course people are going to hate you for this, but if they hate you, who cares? You don't want them in your life anyway. If you know that that's somebody you're not going to connect with, and you can immediately filter them out of your life. But at the same time, people will absolutely love you for this. And the people that you love, those are the ones that you have a deep connection with, and those are the people you want to hold close to you. And that's when you should be like, okay, these people love me. Maybe I shouldn't do something that I know I do that bothers them a lot, because I want to keep them close to me, because I care about them as well. And at the same time, the pressure that we have from other people to be good, like how we wear the mask in public, the pressure that makes us put that on, that can be used. So instead of putting it on in public, instead when you're behind closed doors, let's say you're working on something. Let's say you're working on a project for a class, and you have to present it to the class. While you're working on your project, when you have that on your mind, that you want to be great for the class, it gives you more motivation and more dedication to your project to excel at it. So when you present to the class, you get a standing ovation at the end, and you get that general acceptance that we always want. Next thing I want to talk about is how we view the past, the present, and the future. So I want to ask you, how do you view your past? Generally, when we look at our past, we see it in a negative light. Like let's say you're having a fun roast session with your friends, you're making jokes about each other. At the end of it all, and when the flames settle, the first thing that crosses your mind is, dang, I should have said that. Instead of, oh wow, that was actually pretty funny what I said there, I should use that joke again or something else. See, that right there isn't exactly great. It's good to look at your past and see what you did wrong, but at the same time, it's no use looking at your past and thinking about the coulda, woulda, and shoulda. You just look at it, see what you did wrong, and figure out what you can do in the present to change it, and this will improve your future. And at the same time, when you're viewing your past, it's always great to look at what you did right, so you know not to change that while working on yourself. Seeing what you did right is very important, because you may be working on something from your past, and you may change something that you were doing right, and that can hold you back. So if you focus on what you did right and what you did wrong, you'll be able to accelerate much faster. The next thing I want to talk about is subconscious thought conditioning. So I want to ask another question. Are you a fighter? Well, the vast majority of you may not be. Some of you may be martial artists and you may be a fighter, but others may just be like a regular person. So let's say we watch a Bruce Lee movie. After you watch the movie, there is a huge chance that you will feel like you can kick way more butt than you normally could. You will feel like a fighter, essentially. And after noticing that our minds kind of adapt and change the way we think based off of certain things from the exterior world, I began thinking, how can we use this? And the answer is music. So with music, when we hear certain songs, we tend to generate certain emotions in our body. Like certain songs may make us feel motivated, some may make us happy, make us laugh, make us depressed, etc. So using your music to trigger certain emotional states and mental states can make it easier to work through certain tasks. Like for an example, when I was working on scholarships over the winter break, of course it's kind of like mundane and boring, so I'm like, let me use some music to get in the zone. So I started listening to the Book People Unite song from a popular commercial back in the day. And when I would hear this song, it gets me motivated to like read and grind through it. I'm like, okay, yeah, books are great. This helps me do stuff, and I'll be better in my future with this. And once I have that thought process in my head, I tend to view the scholarships in a different light, and I want to do them. I accelerate at them. And at that point, I was doing 3 to 4 scholarships a day. And that's like whole essays being written without even breaking a sweat or even noticing how much I was doing. I was just enjoying it. I felt I was improving myself, and I felt like I could do it. I was motivated to do it because of the song. And also because I was able to easily find dopamine in it afterwards once I changed my view on it. And I feel music is actually incredibly underutilized. There's so many applications for it. Music can be used to block out sounds from the world when you're trying to focus on something. It can be used to motivate you to do certain tasks. It's amazing. And I feel like we should look at our phone and playlists as more than a way to drown people out when they're talking to you. We should look at them as a source of emotion that we can use to change the way our minds work and change our thought patterns. Now that I've uncovered the most important parts, where do we go from here? I'll have a few things laid out that can help you become closer to being limitless, and I'll explain as I go through them. So the first things I want you to form a habit of doing is luminosity and playing Tetris and certain games that help train your brain flexibility. You can easily Google and find a list of this, and I will include the link of one in the description. So the reason I like these things is because they're free and they're easy to use. And when you have your brain trained to be more flexible, it allows you to adapt and improvise in certain situations a lot better than you normally could, which is very useful because when you look at the movie Limitless, that's all he's constantly doing. Like when he was talking to the loan shark who was giving the money, he tried to explain how he actually was getting the money and how he figured out how to hack the stock system. But once he found out he wasn't buying it, he immediately adapted and changed in order to convince him to give him the money. The next thing I want to talk about is how we can use these things to build confidence. And this focuses solely on the habit theory. So generally when you're out in public in the world, and let's say you see a girl, for example, if you're a guy and you want to talk to her, you get a fear impulse that says, oh no, don't do it, it's scary. What if she says no? What if your friends laugh at you? When you get this impulse in your brain, instead of conceding to it and feeling bad and living with the regret of what could have been, just go in and say something to her. Go talk to her. I mean, sure, it's going to be hard to do this, which is why I like the accountability rule of having somebody like, okay, let's say you're with your friend, okay, I'm going to go talk to her. Because once you say that, you have all that added pressure on your shoulders, so you really want to do it, even more so than before. And once you get used to doing this, after like the 2-week pain period, it'll become easier. And once you make it through the month, something crazy will happen. So your impulse of fear will turn to an impulse of confidence. So every time you feel that way, you'll feel motivated to go do something. And the crazy thing about this is, when you get that fear impulse, you have like a mini adrenaline rush. Your blood gets pumping, your heart starts beating fast, you get nervous. That energy will still be there, but instead of you getting nervous, you'll feel confident. And it makes it that much easier to do it. You can almost view it as riding a roller coaster. Every time you get to the top of the hill, and you take the big drop, sure it's scary, but the more you ride the roller coaster, the less scary it becomes. So by your 100th round trip, it's like light work to you. The next thing I want to talk about are ways to train your memory. So I started training my memory about a few months ago, and it's grown an exceptional amount. I like to use the card method, and the card method is essentially memorizing a set amount of cards a day and increasing the amount of cards you memorize. I will include a link to the wiki of how I figured this out in the description, and it will be able to explain in greater detail than I can. The next thing I want to talk about is the memory palace theory. And this is essentially, you take a landscape. For me, I like to use my childhood house. And as you walk through it, you fill it with images of things you want to remember. So for example, I'm walking through my house and I want to remember that velocity is distance over time. on my front porch, I'll put a picture of a clock with the ruler on top of it. The ruler represents distance, and the clock represents time. And the ruler's on top of the clock, so distance over time. And that's how it stick in my brain. So when you're using this to do the card method, as you're memorizing your cards in order, I like to put them in order as I go through the house. So I would have a set route that I would take through the house, and as I'm going through my route, I'll put the cards in order as I go through the house. So, for example, if I have a king of hearts, a five of diamonds, and an ace of spades, I would have the king of hearts standing by my front door, and I would have the king of hearts represented by a loving king, hence the king of hearts. And as I go into my front door in my living room for the five of diamonds, I would have 5 diamond rings, and a guy trying to find what he should use to propose to his girlfriend with. And also a little tip, the more outrageous the image, the easier it is to remember. And then for the ace of spades, I commonly refer to any spades card as a club. So right past my living room, my dining room would be the ace of spades club. And the last thing I want to talk about is clarity. So in the movie Limitless, they put a very big emphasis on being able to see things clearly. As when he was on the field, you could even tell in the movie, the graphics would change, the colors would become brighter and more vibrant. And when he's off the field, everything would be more dull and mundane. So I figure that it's possible to see like this as well in real life. I do this through 2 methods. One being quick mind mapping, and one being through my habits and meditation. So quick mind mapping is essentially, before I do any task, I stop for a split second and I picture myself doing it, or I picture my route to doing it. So let's say I'm going from my room to the kitchen. Before I take my first step, I will stop and I'll plan out how I'm going to get there and think about all the obstacles I will have to overcome as I go there. And while doing this, you have the ability to like foresee unseen things that might come in your way. Then if you just jump into it, you'll have better preparedness for it as you go through it, and it'll make it that much easier to go through. And I also like to talk about meditation habits. So I like to meditate twice a day, once in the morning and once at night. And now when I meditate, I don't go with the let's just be alone with my thoughts. That's kind of terrifying. People think about things they do not want to think about, and you would scare the mess out of yourself if you do that. So I don't recommend that. For one, I'm personally a Christian, so when I meditate, I like to pray. And also while I'm meditating, I like to focus on something that I want to accomplish or get better at. So I'll try to view it from not only my point of view, but from others' point of views, and try to find different angles at it. I try to take the task and break it down and put it together in a more simple manner for me to accomplish it in. And this makes it so much easier to go through your day, because it allows you to stop, it relaxes your body, and allows you to clear your head before your day starts. And you'll be able to see things much slower, and it'll just make it that much more easier to go through your day, rather than if you were just to rush right into it. And with that being said, these are all the steps that you need to become limitless. The last thing I want to tell you guys is when trying to become limitless, the hardest step to take is the first one. Good luck.